Okay, we're continuing Hilchot Tzedakah, Reish Nun Gimel, with Seif Chet. Ani Shinatan Pruta Litzdaka, Mekabli Mimenu. So an ani who comes to give you a pruta, a very small amount of money, 25, 50 agorot, 10 cents, whatever it is. Here you go. Whatever that amount is, we take from him. V'im lo natan, if he doesn't give, we do not force him to give. Natnu lo begadim chadashim. If we give him brand new clothing, v'hichsir hayeshanim, and he gives us old clothing because he doesn't need it anymore, mekabel mimenu. We're taking from an ani who barely has or doesn't have any food to eat or barely has any food to eat. So we see we're allowed to take. V'im lo hechsir ein machayvin oto. And if he doesn't give it to us, then he's allowed to have his old and his new clothing. That was when we gave it to him. There was no t'nai that he has to now give away his old clothing. We did learn before that if an ani is that there are times that we do not take from an ani. So we if he needs it. So again, it all depends on the case. If he needs it, here we're talking about a very small amount. A pruta is not so significant. Exactly. And then what does it mean you're giving? What does it mean you don't have to give or take from him? So it can just be read at face value and that's fine. But the Bach points out the reason everybody is chayav to give tzedakah, even an ani. So that's the Bach's approach. And therefore, you have to give, let's say, a shlishit of a shekel, which we mentioned before. There's an absolute minimum that everybody must give, even a poor person, he points out. But we don't. The purpose of this halakha teaching, we don't force it out of him. And we don't know what money he needs this moment. But his point is, he can just go give that money to another poor person, and then that poor person will give his tzedakah to him. Basically, trade around in order to be mekayim the mitzvah technically in the pasuk, but the mekayim the aseh don't have a problem with the love, but that's not the gabai's position over here, and you don't have to worry about taking a pruta. Fine. The Shach just points out we're talking even about a person who doesn't have enough money for himself. And so the Shach points out if a person doesn't have enough money to feed himself, he's not chayav to give because he has to first worry about yourself. Slight difference. And so therefore, that's the reason why we're not mechayvin oto. We don't force him to pay. Anyways, we're talking about a small amount that shouldn't starve him. Okay, well, again, we don't take too much. Sometimes we run away from the anim, right? If they're giving us more than they can afford. Okay, let's go to the next halacha. Tet, ani she'ena rotze likach tzedakah ma'arimim v'notnim lo l'shem matana l'shem halva. If you know there's a person who's poor, he can't afford food, he's starving, he's malnutrition, he's getting sick, he doesn't have basics. He's freezing and he can't pay for the electricity to warm him in the cold winter. So in these cases, we give it. We make sure we find a way to help the ani and we provide for him. We give him a gift. We tell him it's not tzedakah. You don't mention the word tzedakah. You tell him it's a gift. You can tell him here's a loan. Pay me back when you have the money to make him feel good. You don't want to embarrass him. You don't want him to feel bad. It's not called, you make sure you don't tell him it's tzedakah, fine. Right, sometimes, obviously, if he's capable, you help him find a job, but that's the bigger picture. Yud. Ashir hamariv atzma. So here we have a person who has money in the bank, ve'einot sara b'mamono, but he's just very, very stingy with his own money. Shel yochal mimenu. He doesn't even want to buy his food. So the halacha says, ein mashkichin bo. It's from the Gemara. So basically, we don't have to involve ourselves with this person. We don't have to take money from the tzibur to put money in this guy's hand to buy food. He has money. He has food if he wants. That's his problem. He's 100% capable. And the Aruch Shulchan just what? The Aruch Shulchan adds, if a person is he has money, but he's sick and he can't move and he's starving, so then you should go take care of him, feed him, go to the makolet, go to the market, and then whether he's looking or not looking, you go take, or the tzibur takes money from him because it's his, he can afford it. You don't have to. Right now, you take care of him so he doesn't, starve and pass away. But then you send them a bill and you figure it out because really he can afford it. Okay. I saw in the Psakim Machuvos, he raises an interesting question. What happens? Again, I don't know if it's the same thing. The Gemara's Lashon is the Brisa, Yeshlo. He has money. Or he has. Does that mean he physically has money in his pocket? Or does that mean he's able to work? He can make minimum wage doing something minor. He has a profession, he has a degree, a license, whatever it is, and he can make a proper wage. Whatever the situation is, Yeshlo, that may also be interpreted like that. So the Psakim Mechuvas basically says from Achronim and Rishonim. I did not do any research on this, but he basically says a person who is capable of working and chooses not to work, also, you don't have to worry about him. Obviously, if he's starving this moment, so for this moment, I guess you give him, maybe. Depends, again, how far you take it. Again, but the post can point out, we're not talking about someone who's learning full time with the Yoreh Shemayim and all hours. Okay, that's not who we're talking about. Yud Aleph, Talmid Chacham Chayavim Latet Lo Lefi Kvodo. So Talmid Chacham, we have to give him, help support him in order so that he's presentable according to his dignity. If he doesn't want to accept money, so we help him make a business. He doesn't know how to. We help him so that he can support himself. Right? This is if he doesn't want to take. So this person doesn't want to take this Talmud Chacham. So you find a way so that he feels like he's doing it himself. You go buy him merchandise for very cheap. And then you or your friend, when you go back to him and you buy it for more expensive than he bought it for. So you're making it easy for him, very easy for him to make an honest living, a profit. But if he's able to make business on his own, so then you give him some money, you give him a loan, so that he could make some business on his own.
You could go to his wife, perhaps, and she could run the business. So
yeah, okay, you're just adding that a wife is allowed to work, and a wife is certainly allowed to support her husband, if that's what they want. Some of the poskim, he brings in Psakim Mechuvos, if the husband has a problem and he can't work, or he doesn't want to work, or whatever his situation is, and he's not providing for the family, even in a case where we say, you know what, sorry, you have to take care of yourself. If the wife and kids can't take care of themselves, then you still have, then the tzibur should help take care of, or needs to help take care of the wife and kids. It's not necessarily
also.
What?
They're aniyim also.
Yeah, of course, they're also aniyim in that case. So okay, let's go to Yud Bet. Mi shenitzrach lebriot v'shat achar parnasato v'natnu lo tzedakah. So if the person, he needs help, he's not doing well in business, he needs help, the tzibur gives him tzedakah. So whatever he collected under the title of tzedakah, if a person is having trouble in business and he owes money from his business, and now the city tzedakah gives him money to live off of, they didn't give him money to pay back the loans. They gave him money to live off of, the bare minimum for tzedakah. So from that money, his creditors, the people he owes money in business, they can't collect from this tzedakah. That's not what it was intended for. That's protected. Haga, imlo shekatuv b'kibutzo shechayev la'acherim, da'az natnu lo adaita dahachi shishalim.
So he comes around with his letter. He says he's got a lot of football.
If when he's collecting, he says, I have big kindness.
If he's collecting in order to pay back his loans, so then the creditors are allowed to take from that money because the tzedakah was given for that. Whenever tzedakah is given for, that's what it can be used for. Okay, in either direction. But yeah, very good. Siman Reish Nun Dalet. Shelo lakabel tzedakah min hagoyim. Aleph. Asur liyisrael litol tzedakah min hagoyim. You have what? Acherim? Acherim? Oh, interesting. Not to get tzedakah from acherim. Okay, let's see how it reads inside. Asur liyisrael litol tzedakah min hagoyim. You have goyim over there? Of the kachavim. So it makes sense for the title to be goyim or of the kachavim, but okay. So one is not allowed to take from tzedakah from non-Jews in public. In other words, where the non-Jews are seeing that you're taking from them. But if there's not enough tzedakah funds from the Jewish tzedakah fund, and you have no choice, you're starving, and you have to go to the goyish fund, and there's no way to take it from the goyim quietly, so then mutter. So then it's mutter. I don't know, taking from public government funds. When people know about it, is that called private or public? Let's leave it as a question. People know in general it's happening. No one knows who's taking, who's getting.
Today,
no one sees it.
Aliyah, when you're making Aliyah, there's some of these Christian organizations that are offering to help pay your transport to Israel.
Interesting.
So there's an issue around.
Some Christian funds are the help in funding Jews move to Israel, you're saying. So that's probably okay for numerous reasons. Also, there's no chil Hashem in this case. It's a chil Hashem when there's Jews who should be supporting you, and you're going to non-Jews to collect. So that looks bad. It looks like the Jews are not taking care of the Jews. But in a case where there's no chil Hashem, so then there's no problem. Okay.
Shach says, but Basik not Hashem is that Hashem. It's like Hashem is that Hashem.
Okay, bet. Melech Osar Goy. Sheshalach Maman Yisrael Litzdaka. Okay, this is also related to your. I have Melech. You have a what?
Only side.
A Sar. Interesting. Okay, so a king or a ruler, non-Jewish, and he sends money to a Jew for tzedakah. Ein machzirin oto mishum shalom malchut elanot mimenu. So then, don't give it back because he's going to get insulted. So that's going to be a bizayon for him. However, v'yinatin la'ani goyim, but you should take that money without him knowing, beseter, quietly, right, and then give it to non-Jewish poor people, kadei shelo yishma hamelech, because you don't want the king or the ruler or officer or whatever to know about it. So that's why you do it quietly, so he doesn't get insulted. And also, 1 second. Here, let's keep reading. Haga v'yesh omrim diyaseh bahen ma shetziva lo hamoshav. And some say that no, you can do with them whatever he tells you to do. V'kol zeh dafka kashenotnim ma'ol tzedakah. That's if he's giving it to you for tzedakah. Aval im menadvin davar lebeit hakneset, if they're giving it to you, not because they, pity, tzedakah, they feel bad for you. They're giving it to you because they believe in your cause. They want to give you a gift. So then they want to donate to the Beit Knesset. Then mekablim mehem. Then you do receive from them. Right? There's no chil Hashem, but in particular here, because we know when it comes to a Beit Knesset, we accept their korbanos, it has even more reason to accept from them. Aval, lo mina meshumad, you don't take money from a meshumad, someone who's anti-Torah. Converted. Mumar. So it's either meshumad or mumar. Okay. All right. Probably both. Okay. Let's see.
It means someone
Oh, you say it only means someone became Christian? What if maybe someone who persecutes religious people, maybe? Okay. Even mumar lahachis, you would think you can take probably? You call it not? I don't know. No. Wait, what, the Shach? Oh, the Shach quotes the Mabit. He says, you do take from a mumar. Okay, it's a machlokas, I believe, anyway, on that point. Definitely not mumar l'teyavan. Mumar l'teyavan's a total Jew, gets all the rights, all the kavod, as a regular Jew. Okay. But let's see, anything we need to say? Let's go on. Reish nun hey. L'harchik mikabalata. Aleph. La'ola, right, to distance yourself from taking. La'olam yarchik adam atzmo me'atzdaka. A person should always distance himself from taking from tzedakah. Yigalgal atzmo b'tzar shelo yistarech labriyot. He should live a difficult life where he should do what he needs to do, even if he's suffering, so that he doesn't have to take from others. And that's what Chazal also commanded. Even don't have any special food on Shabbos. Just eat like you normally do during the week. Very simple meal. Have 2 meals maybe, in order to avoid having to take from others. Even if he's what? He became poor. Right? A Talmid Chacham was wealthy, became poor. Yasat ba'umanut. He should find some way of working to make a living. Va'afilu ba'umanut menuvelet. Even if it's not a very honorable position, whatever that might be. Ve'al yitztarech lebriot. Okay, you want to say garbage man, janitor maybe, I don't know, cleaning toilets, whatever you want, whatever is considered. And you should not collect from tzedakah. Bet. Any person who doesn't need to take from tzedakah, but he does take, he tells them, oh, I don't have any money. And you go, so then, again, it doesn't matter if you're going from door to door, it doesn't matter if you're going to the Kupa Tzedakah organization. Either way, you're taking money that you don't need. The notel, Eino mate ad shitztarech labriot. So there's a curse. He shouldn't die until he becomes needy. He should lose all his money and actually need to collect. Right? Anyone who goes from door to door, we're assuming he doesn't have basic necessities. That's what's why they're giving. It's not a gift unless you tell them I have what to live off of. The call me shetzarich litol ve'eno yachol lichyot. And anyone who needs to take, he doesn't have what to live off of. Ela imkein yitol, unless they give him. Kigon azakin or achole or bal yisurim. So here we kind of see what we mentioned before. He's an old man. He's not able to work. He's sick. He can't work. Or he's suffering with terrible problems, and he's not able to work. That's not an explanation. That's an addition. But we'll get there in a second. Well, I don't think he's not saying that on Bal Yisurin. Umegis daito, and he's making himself haughty. Ve'eno notel, and he's desperate, but he wants to make himself like he feels like he doesn't need, and so he refuses to take. Harei zeh shofech damim. This is like a murder. Umitchayev benafsho, and he's chayev for himself. If he passes away, dies of starvation. Ve'ein lo b'tzaro ela avonot v'chataim. and you're not going to get rewarded for this sa'ar if you're making yourself suffer this much. You're getting averos for this. You're going to get punished for it. Here's your shach. In this list of people who need help, they're not able to. It includes a person who has the shach writes daughters. I guess it depends on your society if it's daughters or sons and how it works out when you marry off your children. But he writes if you have kids or daughters who you can't get them married if you don't supply a certain amount of money, whether it's the wedding or helping whatever the society requires. We learned about renting an apartment. Does it mean also buying an apartment? Whatever is needed to marry off your daughters. So then it is also included in this category that a person should take, because otherwise his daughter will never get married. The kol mi shetzarich lito umetzaer atzmo, and anyone who needs to take, but he punishes himself or suffers not to take, v'dochek et hasha'ah, and pushes himself, v'chai chai etzar, and he lives a difficult life, kadei shelo yatriach al tzibur, not to make it difficult on the tzibur, eno meit ad sheyafarnes acherim. He doesn't. The bracha is we're talking about a person who is able to scrape by and make it. In other words, he is suffering, but he is still able to put food on the table. It's not water pouring in from the rain. He's able to have a home, renting or whatever it is. He's able to put food on the table, put clothing on the kids. And as long as he's able to get by the bare minimum, and of course this depends a lot on the times and the community, what's the bare minimum? If he's able to get by and not ask for any help and get from tzedakah, so the bracha is, not only is this wonderful, he should become rich, and that he should have so much money, not only for himself and his family, but even to support others. The Allah v'katu v'omer, and the pasuk says on such a person, Baruch hagever asher yiftach b'Hashem. Blessed is the man who has the trust in the Kadosh Baruch Hu that by doing the minimum, it'll be good and work out.